Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And thank you for joining our Techstrong learning experience that's also brought to you by Weaviate. My name is Jared Harris, and welcome back to this Techstrong learning program. As always, this session is recorded and will be available to you afterwards for on demand. We'll send you a link by email. Excuse me. Please send in your questions to the question panel on the right side of your screen. We also want to hear where you're signing in from on the chat. Use that to communicate with others, communicate to our panel members here that I'll introduce in just a second. We've also got some resources for you in the handout section. Click that and you'll see them right there. You can get more information than or any information that you want. And finally, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware there will be two $50 Amazon gift cards for today's two users. Will be sent that after the program, and to receive that, to become eligible, you'll need to chat with us, communicate, send in your questions, take a survey. We've also got that in the handouts as well. Let's go ahead and kick off today's program. We've got improving customer support with generative AI powered assistance. And today we have Erika Cardenas, Technology Partner Manager at Weaviate, and Job Nijenhuis, CTO at Neople. Thank you, Erika and Job, for joining us today. Erika, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you while I turn off my camera.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for putting in the chat where you're all from. I actually see we have someone from the Netherlands. So, Joe, we actually do have someone that speaks Dutch, and
nice.
Jared's pronunciation is great. So I'm Erika Cardenas. I'm a technology partner manager at Weaviate, and I've been at the company for almost 2 years now. And kind of just what I do is I work with our partners and our integration collaborators to build end-to-end notebooks and just collaborate further on how we can use the two technologies together, or show just the power of Weaviate, which is actually how we'll proceed through this webinar with how Neople uses Weaviate for their application. Joe, if you want to introduce yourself.
So also thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited to do this, and also thanks Weaviate, of course, for having us. So I'm Job, I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm CTO at Neople. That means I'm responsible for all things on the technical side. And at Neople, and I'll show you a little bit further, we try to improve customer support with generative AI powered assistance, which is like pretty much what this talk is about. So I won't spend too much time talking about myself, because I don't think you're here for me. But I'll hand it back over to Erika to tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about.
All right, yeah, let's get it started. So this is the agenda for the webinar today. So we'll start with an introduction to Weaviate, and this is where we'll introduce the concepts of agentic RAG. Then Job will cover Neople and give us an awesome demo on it, and then we'll leave like maybe 15 minutes towards the end for questions. So if you have any questions during the presentation, we can add it, and then we can answer it towards the end. All right, so starting with an introduction to Weaviate. So Weaviate is an AI-native vector database company founded in 2019 with the goal of improving AI-powered search and discovery. We have over 800 paying customers and 8 million downloads of our open source client, and work with companies of all sizes looking to accelerate their search and generative AI applications. And the most exciting part is we were awarded for the best open source software in InfoWorld's 100 list in 2023, and part of InfraRed's 100 list. And then this year we were part of Forbes AI 50, which is a huge accomplishment. And I'm so proud of my colleagues on being a part of this. Awesome. Okay. So since 2023, we've all seen the power in large language models. Now the question becomes, how can we take our basic RAG application, which is just retrieve, generate, and build on it by introducing agents? So this presentation will first discuss how agents extend RAG, and then look further into how Weaviate supports this, and actually how Neople uses it. All right, so here's a very kind of funny meme that I put together to describe kind of the concept of agents. So ChatGPT had the whole world excited about the capabilities of large language models. After a few weeks, or probably honestly even a few days, people already wanted to start chatting with their own private data. I was like, this is awesome. I can ask ChatGPT about any questions that I have, but it's kind of limiting with its knowledge because it does have a cutoff date, or it just doesn't have the knowledge of my private data. So how can I connect the two together? So now we can add a short-term or long-term memory to the language models, and this really pushed the boundaries of our LLM applications. Short-term memory is kind of just like the current chat history that you are having, but then long-term memory is like your private data, whether that is documentation, FAQs, etc. So now with LLM plus memory, people could extend the cutoff date of the language model and connect to their private data. So the combination of this is otherwise known as retrieval augmented generation, and I'll cover this more in my presentation. So now the focus of 2024 is how can we add more layers to our RAG application to make it more agentic? So agents use language models to reason across various tasks. For example, it can break down a very complex question into sub-questions, or come up with a plan and the necessary steps to fulfill the user's requests. So it could be, how can I retrieve from my vector database, but then also retrieve from my SQL database at the same time, and then output just one coherent answer. Or, for example, if you want to use your vector database and a calculator or like a code executor, you have this flexibility with tools. So in addition to planning and executing the steps, agents are also capable of selecting and making requests to tools via an API. So this could be a vector database like Weaviate, maybe your Gmail, so you want it to have access of your emails, also a calculator or a code executor. This is kind of like a summary of what agents are. It is the language model, of course, the planning, but also the memory, and then the access to external tools. So now I want to cover how Neople uses hybrid, well, first, let's discuss how Neople uses Weaviate features to build an agentic RAG to improve customer support. Neople uses hybrid search to improve the recall of the top K results from Weaviate. It uses a combination of keyword and vector search together, and I'll cover this in more detail in a few slides. They also use re-ranking for the second stage retrieval to boost accuracy. Then we also have a connection to the language models, so whether using OpenAI, Cohere, etc. And then, of course, we have full CRUD support or operations because Weaviate is a database at the end of the day. All right, so starting with hybrid search. Hybrid search marries keyword and vector search together. It combines dense, vector search, and sparse keyword search together. And as you can imagine, it gives you a boost in accuracy since it uses the two search algorithms. Hybrid search is natively built in Weaviate, which means you don't have to build out your own BM25 index and then connect it to another system. We support this natively. So actually all you have to do is define an alpha parameter. So to use hybrid search, you define alpha, and this determines the weight that you want to give each algorithm. So in this very handy visual from Google, I have BM25 on one side, vector search on the other, and kind of with like this uneven scale, my alpha is set to 0.75, and that's because I want it to lean more towards vector search. An alpha of 0 is pure BM25 only, so doing the keyword matching, and an alpha of 1 is vector search. We have two algorithms in Weaviate that fuses the results for both searches together, but I won't cover that in further detail. We have like one set by default, but depending on your application, you can change it if you need to. Sorry, I need to cough really quick. All right, so here's a table covering the pros and cons of hybrid, vector, and keyword search. As you can see, hybrid search really picks up the slack for the shortcomings of vector and keyword search. Vector search isn't great out of domain context, meaning if you do a vector search on a specific product ID, chances are it won't be retrieved. And this is because the machine learning model doesn't know what product 1124 is. And this really ties into how like Weaviate, Neople uses hybrid search, because if we have a customer ID or corresponding product that we want to retrieve it from, and we want that to be a part of the query, it's really important that the retrieval is very specific to the customer ID or product ID, and it's not just doing a semantic search on it. So again, vector search may fall short at short queries and specific term matches, like the products, product ID specifically. Keyword search, on the other hand, can't capture semantic meaning, meaning that you can't use natural language, and it really doesn't like typos. So if you misspell like the name of a product, chances are it will not be part of the retrieved objects, just because it needs to be verbatim and exact. So with all that being said, hybrid search really does check all of the boxes for the shortcomings of vector search and keyword search. All right, so now that we've covered the first stage retrieval, which is just how we retrieve objects from Weaviate using hybrid search, now we have re-ranking. So adding re-ranking to the second stage is a quick and effective method to boost search relevance. So point-wise re-rankers take as input the query in each candidate document separately and outputs a relevance score. So in this visual, we have a query. It is first passed to the vector database using hybrid search. It's going to retrieve the top K objects and assign a score to each chunk. So with just doing hybrid search, we can see that the most relevant chunk is actually this blue document. However, once we pass it to the re-ranker model, this changes. So the re-ranker model takes the query and each chunk as input to the model. So for example, you'd have the query plus the blue document, query plus green document, query pink, and then query orange. And then it will take each pair and then reorder it based off of its relevance. And as you can see from after re-ranking the chunks or documents, whatever you want to call it, we have the green as being the most relevant, actually. All right, so now that we've completed the multi-stage retrieval, which is the retrieve and then re-rank, we can now move on to the language models. So language models are great and very powerful. However, they are only as knowledgeable as the data they were trained on. If you ask a language model what the current temperature is outside, it won't have the answer because it has a cutoff date of 2023 or 2024, depending on which model you're using. There are a few solutions to solve this user request. So you could use RAG and store all the weather data in your vector database, or you can connect directly to a weather API. And this goes back to the discussion of making our RAG more agentic. You can retrieve from your vector database and then also retrieve from the weather API in order to generate an output. Another option, of course, is to fine-tune the language model on domain-specific knowledge, whether this is like a customer support task or maybe even a medical-specific domain. So RAG is an easier solution to fine-tuning. You can, of course, use both together, but just one solution to fixing this limitation of language models is actually to use RAG, so Retrieval Augmented Generation. It enables you to build applications where you can chat with your private data, and this could be a mixture of data types like customer support tickets, documentation, FAQ, and more. And Job will go into greater detail of how they handle the ingestion at Neople. All right, so here's what a basic RAG flow looks like. You first retrieve from the vector database and then generate a response by passing the relevant chunks to the language model. I wish I had a little pointer here, but on the left, we have our query. So how can I pay my bill online? We're going to retrieve the relevant chunks from the vector database using hybrid search. And then we can also add re-ranking into this retrieve step. Then we'll pass in the top K chunks into the language model to generate this output of the steps that the user needs to follow in order to pay their bill online. All right, so how this is done. Weaviate has a modular architecture which takes away the complexity of connecting to each vectorizer, re-ranker model, and language model separately. Vectorizers is how you embed your data, whether it is text, images, audio, video, etc. Re-ranker models, I covered it, but this is just how you can boost the accuracy of your retrieval. And then the language model is how you get a generative response. So Weaviate with our modules, we support various providers from Cohere, AWS, OpenAI, Llama, etc. You name it, each kind of functionality has its own respective providers. All right, so Weaviate is a vector database and has full CRUD support. And currently, RAG is only capable of reading from the database. So we have the question, we're retrieving, and then we're passing in the results to the language model. But we can take this one step further by enabling it to create, update, or even possibly delete objects if you're feeling a little risky. Maybe you don't want to do that, so leave delete out of there, but Weaviate still does support this functionality. So we support these operations through our insert, update, and delete APIs, and each one has multiple. And here's not really a quote, but very massive text. So the future of agents is being able to write and update objects to the database using generative feedback loops. I won't go too much into detail about what that is, but essentially it's just storing the generated outputs from the language model back into the database for future retrieval. So our customer service bots can then use past conversations to improve their next response. So as you can imagine, it has a very useful back and forth with a customer on how they can pay their bill online. And rather than just discarding that helpful conversation, we can then use that to, in the future, to give the next customer a better answer. And maybe instead of like 10 back and forths, it's limited just to 2. And obviously that will make Neople very happy because that is less calls to the language model. All right, so Weaviate supports various deployment options from open source to serverless and more. It ranges from Weaviate managing everything for you through serverless or enterprise cloud, bring your own cloud, open source, and on marketplaces like AWS. And this is actually how Neople deploys Weaviate, and we have a great case study that we can share at the end, or I believe we have it as part of the handouts on one of the panels. I'm not sure where it is on your screen, but it is somewhere there, and I highly recommend reading it. All right, now without further ado, I'll pass it on to Job.
All right, thanks a lot. And now it's my turn to tell you a little bit about Neople. I will first tell you a little bit about Neople, then we'll jump into a quick demo, because of course, like a presentation is nice, but a demo is way nicer. And then we're going to dive into how we actually use all the features that Erika just described, or part of the features. We don't have time for everything. And to share a little bit about the thought process that goes into doing it naively and then jumping into like more advanced stuff, hoping to still keep it manageable for you all. So please send questions if it's not manageable, and I'll try to respond to them. I already saw a lot of questions coming in from REA, and I think I'm gonna handle all of them, or at least 3 of them in my presentation. If you disagree, please let me know. So Neople is the employment agency for digital co-workers. We believe that with large language models, with RAG, with whatever is possible right now, we can finally be at a stage where you step away from like the old traditional chatbot that always answers in the wrong way and that never really thoroughly understands your question, to a complete full-fledged colleague. We're currently focusing on, let's start here. So what we think and what we see and what we know and what we believe is that really we can make technologies, AI technologies, really accessible simply by having a conversation as you would with any colleague. So a Neople appears in whatever like Slack or Teams you use. It appears in your contact and it's just like any other colleague. We're of course powered by the latest AI tech, of which Weaviate is definitely one of the latest and greatest. We try to make your work more human. Try to strip away like the annoying repetitive questions. Try to strip away the very angry customers that think a shouting match will really help solve the ticket faster or something. And it really tries to work together with you rather than for you, but really focused on this collaboration like any colleague would. We have a lot of nice customers. I won't go into all of them, but a key feature of a Neople is that each Neople has their own face, they have their own personality, they have their own name, and we really see that with our customers. They really enjoy that. They really see their Neople as a part of the team. They really talk about their Neople rather than a piece of software, and that's really cool, and it really helps with the adoption with whatever we get from our customers. They just really like that, and it's pretty much that the Neople is the personification basically of the company. So they try to strive for the same core values, do everything that the company would. And I already mentioned this quickly. We work where you work. So if you work in Zendesk, then a Neople works in Zendesk as well. I'm going to show that in a demo. If you work in Slack, then the Neople is available in Slack as well. Just anywhere where you could normally find your colleagues and where you normally do your work, the Neople will integrate there. Will be available there for question answering, for helping you do your job. And that's really what we strive for, to be as available and as connected as possible. And then it is time for the demo, and obviously that is gonna be my screen. I hope my screen is visible now, and I hope that the text is visible as well. Let's make it very big. Oh, it's very big. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send an email. I'm a new customer of Weaviate, so I'm gonna send an email, dear Weaviate support team. I recently started using Weaviate, and I'm truly impressed by its capabilities, of course. However, I have a few questions that need some clarity to fully utilize its features in my current project. Could you please explain how I can migrate existing data into Weaviate? I want to ensure a smooth transition without losing any critical information. And also, I've heard about the serverless cloud servers, but I'm not quite sure how it differs from the enterprise cloud. Could you please shed some light on it? So this view, and I'll increase that in size as well. This is just a generic Zendesk view. This is the central place where customer support agents manage their tickets. So whether it is a chat message, whether it's a Facebook message, whether it's an email like currently, they appear here, or they should appear here. This is just a central place that all these agents work together. Well, you can see it's very big now. We received the question, and then now Ziggy is the Neople that's helping me with this demo today. We see one unread message. So here Ziggy is like, hey Job, great to hear you're digging into Weaviate. Let's make sure you get all the clarity you need. And what you see, normal chatbots and old school chatbots, basically it's just a big decision tree, and they try to infer, okay, this is the literal question that you tried to ask, and this is the answer. What you see here is that we did something smart, because there is a bunch of questions in here. Like, this part is not really relevant for the question, but it's a nice introduction. So we, of course, send a nice introduction. Then we have one question, which is how can I migrate? And we have another question, okay, well, how do serverless cloud and enterprise cloud relate to each other? And what you will see the Neople did is, well, for migrating existing data into Weaviate, you can get to this document, or you can click on it. We easily jump into the wrong page. Well, it's a demo. But the information about how to migrate into Weaviate. Then regarding the difference, you get a nice explanation. Difference is about scale and customization. Service Cloud, perfect for prototyping. And enterprise is more, well, enterprise heavy. Let's see if this, information about the enterprise cloud. We always give, because in the end we're working with large language models, we always give a bunch of sources. And with this demo, usually there's a very nice, it says, okay, Weaviate sitemap, and then the enterprise cloud page, and then the migration page, and stuff like that. And of course, we constantly collect feedback from our clients to make sure that the Neople constantly improves. And also the thing that Erika just talked about, with the Neople being able to also update their knowledge. We do have an entire pipeline set up that the Neople infers new knowledge from each and every interaction. So they really learn by every interaction, and they get better with that. What you can also do is you can say, okay, well, hey, Ziggy, sure. I think Job would like it if you answer in a pirate tone of voice. Please do that. And of course, it's a live demo, so this is always scary. But this interaction inside of the contact center, you can interact with the Neople, you can ask them questions, you can ask them to refine things, to translate things with the entire context of your company, with the entire context of the ticket. And luckily, Ziggy was very friendly to me today, so he translated it into a pirate tone of voice. Not sure if this is really very relevant, but it's always fun to play around with. So this is a quick show of how a Neople works. Of course, it works like you expect in Teams. It works like you expect in Slack, just any other colleague. So that's it for the demo. And then let me switch back to the slides and tell you a little bit about how we interact with Weaviate, and specifically how we ingest and how we query and how we perform a part of our reg pipeline. So this is our overview. It's very simplified, of course. There's a lot of stuff going on actually, but this is for now. It's more than enough to explain what's going on. So customer support ticket comes in, the Neople retrieves the right context. It retrieves the right information from the sources that we gave it, from any live integration that we gave it, from any product feed that we gave it. We perform a re-ranking step, like Erika explained. Then that entire result gets thrown to a large language model. Sometimes it's just one, sometimes it's a sequence of language models. And then in the end, we generate a response. The Neople generates a response. We send it back like you just saw on Zendesk. And we really try to help the customer service agents there. And an important part that we didn't really talk about just now is the ingestion. So how do you, of course, like we have an incoming question, and that incoming question we need to use to search through the, in our case, Weaviate. But what do you put in Weaviate, and how do you put it in Weaviate? And Weaviate has a bunch of very nice features for that, and I'll explain a little bit about that as well. But let's kind of zoom into this ingestion part. Well, let's take a small step back. I thought the order was slightly different, but well, let's go with it. The entire RAG pipeline consists of like pretty much these three steps, and I think Erika already touched on it a little bit. But an important part is this embedding step, which is translating whatever input you have be it a PDF document, be it a website, be whatever you can think of, a customer support ticket, embedding that, and with this process, translating it from human language basically to computer language, to just a sequence of digits. And this is called an embedding. Feel free to forget most of it, but it is a very important, a very vital step in how this hybrid search, how semantic search, how keyword search, how all of this combines together, and how you can use that to get the best results in the end. And that's what we're going to talk about. So first up, you have a huge document. You have, in our case, I said, Ziggy, okay, Ziggy, please read the entirety of Weaviate's websites. And Weaviate's website, Ziggy told me, is really big. They have a lot going on there, and there's blog posts, there's documentation, there's everything that you might need. It's there. So it's very nice. Please check it out. But it's way too much to fit into Ziggy's brain. Poor Ziggy would just, well, be very sad. So we need to cut up the website, and you have the pages, but usually a page can still be much too big. So you need to cut it up in teeny tiny pieces for Ziggy to be able to look through them, to be able to go through them, and to be able to, in the end, find the right results. Then this process that I just said, the embedding, which is translating such a chunk into a vector. And this vector that doesn't mean anything really to most humans, but it does mean a lot to a large language model. And this can, or to a semantic search, basically. This is a translation of what we read to the semantic meaning written out in digits of the piece of text, of the question, of the web page. And the nice thing about semantic search is that you can you look at the semantics of the stuff that you're uploading, right? So even if two sentences are completely different, they might mean the same thing. And then semantically, they are very similar. And this embedding will be very similar. So where normal keyword search fails, semantic search will thrive. The other way around, like if you have a lot of words that just are correct and can be literally found, or almost literally found, in your text, in your chunk, then that's where keyword search thrives. So that's why we chose to work with Weaviate, because Weaviate combines both these things. They automatically, if we send a near text query, they automatically embed the query. They do a hybrid search. They surface the BM25 result. They surface the similarity result, combine that, throw it into a re-ranker, and then we get a result. So there's a lot that we can still control, which is very important to us, but that is kind of taken out of our hands by Weaviate. And that's really cool. And this, I hope, is visible. I put an example of a company that does animal food and animal stuff. It's a company that we talked to. And it gives a good example of something that is very important to do, because naively, what I just said, you take a page and you like cut it up into different pieces, you throw it into Weaviate, and then Weaviate will be happy because, well, you asked it to embed that, and Weaviate will embed it for you. But that's not really the right way to go at it, because a customer will never ask the answer. And 90% of everything that is on the left is the answer. The customer will ask the question, which is, why haven't I received all the items I ordered yet? Which is, why were items from my order canceled? So the sensible thing to do is to not throw in the entire web page or the entire FAQ in this case. It is to only embed the question because the customer will only ask the question. And if you go at it naively, you just end up with big pieces of text that don't offer the right semantic similarity. But that's what we do for all kinds of different documents and all types of different types of documents. We really try to think, okay, what is a sensible way to chunk this up and to embed this? In the end, whenever we send the query to a large language model, we use the entire thing. We use the question and the answer. But for searching for this RAG pipeline, we only use the vector for the question because that's the thing that we're searching for. I hope that makes sense. And similarly, there is a question coming in. Hi, 1 week ago I placed an order, I couldn't wait. Unfortunately, I still haven't received my items yet. Why is that? And how come one of the items was canceled? And that's similar to the thing I just showed in the demo. There is actually 2 questions in there. So in the demo, I asked, okay, how do I migrate? And what's the difference between enterprise cloud and serverless cloud? But in order to answer that question, we need to figure out, okay, what questions are actually in there? And this is where, like, normal chatbots will just say, okay, well, this is the highest probability that it is a question about migration, so I will just return migration information. But in our case, we say, okay, we have a question about migration, and then we need to compare the serverless cloud with the enterprise cloud. So we need pretty much 3 queries, and in this example, we have 2 questions. Why haven't I received all my items yet? And why was an item canceled for my order? And once again, like, if we would throw in naively this entire question, this entire ticket into Weaviate and try to get the most sensible results, like, we might get lucky, of course, and get the right results. But in general, we will just get a mess of results. So what we do here is we do query rewriting. We try to turn this incoming ticket into, in this example, 2 questions, which both touch only that specific part, and that is what we can find in the knowledge base. And then in the end, we use this knowledge for the rewritten query. We use this knowledge from the chunked and embedded documents, and you already very clearly see the similarity here. So even though we ended up with a lot of text that we almost ingested, even though we ended up with very elaborate ticket with a lot of nonsense and 2 questions in there, here we have a very well thought out and well working process where we ended up with 2 very tiny questions from the FAQ with 2 very tiny questions from the incoming ticket. We're able to link them really, really well. And I'm not sure if it's readable, but we're able to generate the complete answer, touching all of these different parts, completely answering the ticket. And I crunched some numbers. You can forget all about that as well. But the naive way, so how similarity works is you get a digit, like a comma up to 1, a decimal up to 1, and 1 is best. So you want to get as close to 1 for stuff that is similar. And in the naive way, we went to 0.82, which is kind of okay, kind of bad still. If we only looked at the improved chunking, so the part on the right, we went up 0.03, which is not a lot, but we went to 0.82 to 0.85, which might make a big difference. If we only do the query rewriting, then we already went up to 0.9. And if we combine both, we ended up at 0.99 similarity. So that's pretty much like verbatim, like 100% the same. So there's really a lot of value in thinking and really thinking through what does it mean? What am I questioning? What types of questions do I get in? How is my document structured? How can I restructure this document to only embed the sensible part and then surface or retrieve the entire context? And that is what really makes a Neople stand out technically, that it can really do this. And that's in big part offered by, of course, using Weaviate and not having to bother with all this embedding stuff and all these vectors, because, well, in the end, we're humans and vectors are for computers. So that. And then to talk a little bit about, Erika mentioned this as well, we did a very nice case study with Weaviate. Before initially, when we started Neople, I was being quite headstrong, and I thought that building vector search myself would be the way to go. So we had everything in Postgres, and in the end, like even with a few hundred or a few thousand chunks, responses would already build up and take minutes to calculate, and yeah, that just didn't work out. Then we started comparing a lot of stuff, and then Weaviate gave us the power that we needed and the flexibility and the control that we needed. And now with millions and millions and millions, I lost count, but with millions and millions and millions of chunks of documents, still we have millisecond latency. We have, I think it's well over 1,000 times more data objects. We get out of the box re-ranking. So yeah, we're really glad, and we're really using and sometimes abusing everything that they have to offer. But yeah, that's it for my part.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, I'll give it over to you, Erika, again.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the demo and just the breakdown of how Neople does this. I mean, it's amazing, and I'm sure we have a few questions that we can maybe ask in addition. But I guess, like, to sum it up, kind of what we've covered is the building out your Weaviate pipeline for this kind of agentic RAG. So we covered hybrid search, so combining keyword and vector search together. Also re-ranking, as Job mentioned, that is out of the box. So we support re-ranker transformers and Cohere. Then obviously the modular ecosystem, so how re-ranking and connecting to these generative and embedding models is possible. And then the CRUD support. So I did see someone ask the question of what is CRUD, and it is just create, read, update, and delete. And you can do these operations with a few of the functions that I had, or parameters that, or APIs that I had on the slide. And it's under our documentation, of course. As you have mentioned, we have a lot of information on our website. Just gotta look and find the right one, but that is surely on there. Then after I spoke, I handed it over to Job, and he just covered how Neople builds AI-powered customer support agents. So we, of course, talked about data ingestion, and in his demo, he used Zendesk tickets as one option. But I'm not sure, Job, would you mind answering this if you support other data types or other providers other than Zendesk?
Yeah, so the answer is definitely. Like I said, we work where you work. So if that work happens in Zendesk, then we have Zendesk support. I think we are about 10 contact centers in at this point. Zendesk, Freshdesk, Trengo, Belco, Gorgias. There's just a lot. And it's a really important part of the Neople. And that means that whenever we have a new customer, we make sure that we integrate in their contact center. So, because that's the way that the Neople adds the most value. And I see there's a question how they can be integrated with existing customer support platforms. So we just support a lot, and also CRM systems. There's a lot of customers that we have in e-commerce. They have order management systems. They have return systems. They have logistics partners. I lost count as well, but we have many tens of integrations on these kinds of live systems, because a lot of the questions that we get are, where is my order type? And then we need to query this live system to make sure that we get live up-to-date information. So we always make sure that whenever a customer starts, we have the right integrations, and if they aren't off the shelf, then we'll make them, because that's where the Neople really adds value.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, nice. I mean, I think one of the coolest parts of the demo was, okay, now given your initial answer, can you speak to me like I'm a fellow pirate? I think it's really cool to have a Neople, so Ziggy helping the customer service representative, but also having the ability to have the human intervention layer to it. So, hey, Ziggy, you're kind of going down a rabbit hole. You're not going to answer this question. So let's kind of pivot this way. Like having that option is really cool. And yeah, the demo was awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Then we also talked about the retrieval, and then also the RAG querying. Maybe another way to kind of phrase this in like the terminology of like how frameworks are kind of talking about it is query decomposition. So how can we take a very a complex question that is maybe a human can interpret and kind of break it down, but how can the computer take this very complex question and break it down into sub-questions? So as Job showed us, just like one question that humans may ask is really actually two questions, and it maybe shouldn't be in the same sentence. It's really important for the language model to be able to understand that they have to maybe retrieve from the vector database to grab the Zendesk ticket, or maybe it's like another platform with the customer service. There are just like a lot of components, I guess, that they have to take into account. And yeah, this is a very important step, because I feel like as humans, especially when we're like writing a very upset customer support ticket, maybe sometimes we provide too much information, and you don't really want to throw the language model off. So it's nice if it can kind of like conform to our crazy human mind. Yes, so that's what we discussed. Sorry, stayed on that slide for way longer than anticipated. But if you scan Neople's QR code, you will be taken to the. I didn't actually scan it.
Yeah, to our webpage. Of course, this was a very technical talk. So if you're interested, check out the careers page. We have a bunch of vacancies open. And of course, if you think that Neople might be able to help your business, if you have some kind of support team that might be overworked, that might be not enjoying their work, or that might just generally enjoy the company of a digital colleague for once, then make sure there's a book a demo button. So make sure to book a demo. Make sure to check in with us, and well, we hope we can help you.
Awesome. Yes. Yes. And then the QR code on the left for Weaviate, or right for Weaviate, you'll be taken to Weaviate Cloud. And if you already have an account, you can sign in. But if you don't, there's a sign up button on the bottom. Great. So we can leave this slide up as we answer any questions. And thanks all for your feedback. It was cool to see where you all are from. I hope this was a good timing for everyone. I see a couple of people in Europe, in the US, in Brazil. So exciting. And then also, this is kind of getting everyone's like gears going on the potential of RAG, and kind of like, yes, we have the basic RAG of retrieve and generate, but there are a lot of components in between.
That's good. Really quickly see if I maybe answered some questions already accidentally. I see a question from Victor. I'm not entirely sure I understand, but if you refer to the case study that we did, then definitely like my very naive implementation with my teeny tiny Postgres database was well over 1,000 times slower than just using Weaviate. So the step of using a vector database is a very, very important step whenever you surpass pretty much like 10 documents. Just jump to a vector database. It doesn't make sense to do it other way.
I'm not familiar with the software, so I'm not sure what happens when I publish a question. But I believe you already answered this, and it's just, can these assistants be integrated with existing customer support platforms and CRM systems? The answer was yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I also see a question coming in. How do employment agencies for digital coworkers ensure the confidentiality and security of sensitive information shared between businesses and their remote workers? So that's really, of course, an important question. And the fun thing is that actually, like, the more personal identifiable information we put in Weaviate, the worse the Neople gets. Because we are about the process of answering a question, and we are about the contents of the question. And the contents of the question is not always starting with hi job, because usually people are not called job, but it is about hi customer name. So as part of trying to make sure we are as privacy sensitive as possible, and we're always increasing how we do that and always increasing our efforts, because it is really important, and we do use and interact with a lot of sensitive data, with this live order information, with everything. So we really try to make sure and are always working to improve. But we are a Dutch company. We're fully GDPR compliant, so everything there is nice. We're jumping to ISO compliance soon, sometime in the next year, supposedly. So working on that as well, to just make sure that all the customer data is safe and well.
Excuse me. Cool. Another question is, in what ways can generative AI powered assistants be integrated with existing customer support systems to provide a seamless and cohesive support experience for customers? And I have one thing on that is, in your demo, I noticed that it actually takes people, the response from Ziggy actually included links to the documentation. So I think the RAG with citation is very powerful, because if the language model is out of date, which isn't ideal to answer a customer support question, it is really nice that it will also provide a resource that it can use to further help the customer.
Definitely touching on a very important point there, because people might not be aware, but large language models are quite horrible pieces of technology. They are amazing, but they are also very, very unreliable in general, especially in production environments like ours, where we have thousands, tens of thousands of tickets a day. Then like your normal LLM, your normal naive implementation, if it touches 90% accuracy, it's a lot, but that to us means like thousands of incorrectly answered tickets. So it's really important, and that's also what I showed. These internal nodes, like you interact with your Neople internally, they don't send anything out externally yet. We are working on that, but we need all these safeguards to make sure that the Neople actually uses their sources, actually uses the right citations. And it's very important to, in the current state of the technology, to make sure that the Neople provides these sources so that it can be fact-checked. It can be like an agent can very easily just click on a link, jump to their order management system, see that it is actually correct and that the package will indeed arrive tomorrow, for example. to just do a quick sensibility check if the Neople is completely up to date. So very, very nice and very important point there.
You also touched on the guardrails for these language models, and John B asked, how do we avoid maybe like a really upset customer that's not using the nicest language and just not like using that as part of the response? What kind of guardrails do you have in place for that?
So of course, like I said, every Neople that we have has their own personality, has their own way of talking, has their own way of interacting, but one thing they all have in common is that they're friendly. They don't get bothered where normal human customer support agents will get bothered with foul language, with getting screamed at. And Neople just doesn't do that. And there is a lot of guardrails in the prompt. There's a lot of guardrails in the models that we use. Like I remember we had the first version of the Neople, I think, live, about 2 weeks before ChatGPT launched. And back then the models were just very horrible, or more horrible than they are now, in that they learned so well from the interactions up until that point that they would be like, okay, well, apparently we're swearing to each other, and then there will be foul language all over. So luckily the models have improved significantly. Our guardrails have improved. We really want to make sure that they are friendly, that they don't lose their patience. I'm not sure if a large language model really has patience, but they don't lose it. And yeah, that's just to make sure. And that's also something that we got a lot from customers, where they're really like, they had a long day and then they get screamed at again, and then Neople to the rescue. They'll be friendly. They'll be saying, okay, well, it's very sad that you feel this way. This is how we can help you. This is the status. This is the update. Whatever. Yeah, that's how we do that. I hope that answered the question.
Awesome. I would say yes. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. Oh, Cassie would like the slides. I don't think we'll share the slides directly, but this was recorded and we will have it on demand. So you can rewatch it and then pause whenever you need to. And I hope that's okay. Like the customer support's in general, like that. Okay, nice, good feedback. One other thing, I hope you guys have looked at the handout section. So of course that's where the case study is. A 1-minute survey from Techstrong, and then the 2 QR codes that we have here. So you can try Weaviate Cloud for free and you can sign up at the bottom of it, but then you can also land on Neople's page to request a demo, or just go on to learn more about all the different Neoples and just how it works. All right, now let's see if there are any. Oh, and I believe Jared said in the beginning that there will be 2 $50 AWS credits. I heard that correctly. I'm not just making that up. But with 2 minutes left, are there any other questions?
Yeah. Are there any questions? Like I've answered a lot of questions about how we do stuff at Neople, so also feel free to throw something at Erika. And
Please do. I am prepared. Let's see. Any other QA? Yeah, we covered hybrid search, re-ranking, and thank you for joining, Alprin. It's very nice. And we also forgot to share the poll, unless everyone answered it already. But it was just, how familiar are you all with vector databases? If you can answer, this is your time.
Hey, Erika, it looks like we did actually run that poll. I did that just kind of in the back. So we've got those results, but for everyone who is still here with us, do click on that poll feature. If you haven't filled it out, it should be there just waiting for your response. But Erika and Job, thank you both so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to have you here with us on Techstrong Learning and to share your expertise with us. And thank you so much for all the detail that you provided for our guests today.
Thanks a lot for being here, or for having us, sorry.
Yes, likewise. Thank you.
Of course. We will email everyone the recording, so rest assured that will be sent to your inbox here shortly. And I would like to thank Weaviate for sponsoring today's session. We couldn't do this without their support. So once again, thank you everyone for joining. We hope to see you at a future Techstrong Learning experience. Have a great rest of your day, and you may now disconnect.